Great to see King Charles III back in action.
What the hell is the Prime Minister going on about?
Get out of my pub! Go on! Get out of my pub!
Keir Starmer, Keir, why do you keep inviting millions of refugees in the country when there's 1.3 million people waiting for housing?
Sir Keir Starmer, Your Majesty. Your Majesty.
Britain is on fire. In a move that has shocked the nation to its core, Prime Minister Keir Starmer has done the unthinkable. He has savaged King Charles directly, accusing the monarch of meddling in politics and betraying the trust of the people. What was once a quiet storm behind palace doors has exploded into the open, igniting a political revolution that is spreading across the country like wildfire. This is no ordinary clash of opinions. It is a seismic rupture between the Crown and the government, and the consequences are reverberating through every corner of British society. Westminster is trembling, the Labour Party is collapsing, and Reform UK is seizing the moment with unstoppable force. The silence that has defined Buckingham Palace for centuries has been broken, not by words, but by actions that carry the weight of history. For generations, the monarchy has remained above the fray of politics, standing as a symbol of unity and continuity while governments rose and fell. But this time, tradition cracked. Behind closed doors, King Charles reportedly met with Reform UK figures in a move described by insiders as nothing short of historic. The gesture was subtle but unmistakable, an unspoken acknowledgement that Reform UK is no longer a fringe protest movement, but a legitimate national force. When news of this secret engagement leaked, it set off a political storm. But what truly pushed the crisis into uncharted territory was Starmer's furious response. According to reports from within Downing Street, the Prime Minister erupted in rage when briefed on the King's quiet endorsement of Farage, Arby and his movement. Starmer branded the King's actions reckless, dangerously irresponsible, and even a betrayal of the democratic process. Those words, spoken in fury, have now turned into his greatest political blunder. For in the United Kingdom, where the monarchy is not merely an institution, but a symbol of stability, to openly savage the Crown is to cross a line that no Prime Minister can retreat from. Within hours, the backlash was everywhere. Headlines screamed of an unprecedented crisis. Starmer versus the King. Political commentators, stunned by the ferocity of his remarks, warned that the Prime Minister had ignited a constitutional firestorm that could consume his leadership entirely. The Labour Party, already under pressure from economic collapse, surging protests and crumbling public trust, has now been thrown into chaos. Inflation is still crippling families, energy bills remain sky high, and food prices are squeezing working-class households. For months, discontent simmered in silence, but Starmer's attack on King Charles has given that anger a rallying point. The public no longer sees Labour as a government in control. It sees a Prime Minister lashing out in desperation, targeting the very institution meant to unify the nation. The optics are devastating. As one senior Labour MP reportedly admitted in private, he has not only lost the room, he has lost the country. Meanwhile, Nigel Farage and Reform UK wasted no time in capitalising on the chaos. Farage stood before cheering crowds, declaring that Britain was entering a new age of political realignment. He framed Starmer's outburst not merely as an attack on the King, but as proof that Labour no longer respects the traditions and values that define the nation. His message resonated instantly. Within days, Reform's membership doubled, donations poured in, and new volunteers flooded local offices across the country. What had begun as a scandal about a royal meeting has now transformed into a movement, one that threatens to topple Labour and reshape Britain's political future. Inside Parliament, whispers of betrayal and collapse grow louder by the hour. Senior cabinet ministers are divided, unsure whether to defend their leaders' reckless words or distance themselves in hopes of preserving their own political futures. Anonymous leaks from Downing Street describe shouting matches, despair, and accusations of incompetence. The cracks within Labour are no longer hidden, they are bursting into the open, and as Labour falters, Reform rises. Polling data now shows Farage's party surpassing Labour in key battleground constituencies, a development once thought impossible. For the first time in modern British history, a populist movement stands poised to challenge not just the government, but the very foundations of the political order. The cultural consequences are just as explosive. Across towns and cities, the monarchy is being seen as the voice of the people, while Starmer is painted as the arrogant politician who dared to silence it. Protests have erupted outside government buildings with placards declaring, "The King speaks for us," and Labour betrayed Britain. Social media is ablaze with images of King Charles beside Nigel Farage, a pairing once unthinkable, but now symbolising hope for millions disillusioned with Labour's failures. Britain is no longer experiencing just another political scandal. It is witnessing the spark of a revolution. And at the centre of it all is a Prime Minister who crossed a line that no leader before him dared, and who may now pay the ultimate price for his fury. The fallout from Keir Starmer's assault on King Charles has spiralled far beyond the confines of Westminster, plunging Britain into a constitutional storm that deepens by the hour. What began as a furious outburst has transformed into a full-scale crisis that is reshaping the political landscape in real time. The monarchy's refusal to respond publicly has only magnified the crisis, feeding speculation and cementing the perception that King Charles has quietly shifted his support toward Reform UK. In the absence of an official statement, silence has become its own weapon, and that silence is damning for the Labour government. Every moment the palace remains quiet, the public's belief that the Crown has sided with the people grows stronger. This perception has unleashed a tidal wave of anger against Starmer, who is now seen not as a defender of democracy, but as a desperate politician willing to savage the very symbol of national unity to protect his collapsing authority. Inside Labour, panic has hardened into despair. Reports emerging from cabinet meetings paint a picture of a government in freefall. Ministers clash behind closed doors. Torn between those demanding Starmer immediately apologise to the King to save what little credibility remains, and those who argue that an apology would amount to political suicide. Neither path offers salvation. To retreat would confirm weakness. To double down would guarantee annihilation. Aides describe the Prime Minister as consumed by rage, pacing the halls of Number 10, convinced that he is the victim of a royal betrayal engineered to destroy his premiership. This paranoia has only deepened the fractures within his party. Backbench MPs, terrified of losing their seats, are openly discussing a no-confidence motion. Senior figures who once backed Starmer are now keeping their distance, quietly preparing for the possibility of his downfall. What was once whispered in corridors is now being spoken aloud. Keir Starmer may not survive the month. Beyond Westminster, the country itself is in turmoil. Protests have erupted across major cities, with thousands taking to the streets in anger. In London, banners reading "The King speaks for us" hung outside Parliament. In Manchester, Reform UK supporters marched alongside ordinary citizens carrying placards that read "Starmer betrayed Britain." The unthinkable has happened. The monarchy, Reform UK and disillusioned voters are being united in a symbolic alliance against the government. For decades, politics and monarchy coexisted in parallel. Now they are colliding head-on. Constitutional scholars warn that this rupture is the most dangerous since the abdication crisis of Edward VIII. Unlike then, however, this crisis is not about the personal life of a monarch. It is about the Prime Minister's war with the Crown itself. The stakes are not confined to tradition. They threaten the very legitimacy of Britain's political system. The press has played a decisive role in intensifying the storm. Newspaper headlines are relentless, branding the scandal as Starmer's fatal outburst and the Crown versus Number 10. Outlets that once leaned Labour are now united in condemnation. Even commentators historically sympathetic to Starmer have admitted that his decision to attack the King was a catastrophic miscalculation. Television debates are dominated by one question: can a Prime Minister who openly defies the monarchy continue to govern? Pollsters report that public trust in Labour has collapsed, with numbers dropping faster than at any point in modern history. Overnight surveys reveal that more than 60% of Britons believe Starmer has lost the moral authority to remain in office, while nearly half demand his immediate resignation. In contrast, Reform UK has surged to unprecedented heights, overtaking Labour in key constituencies and even rivalling the Conservatives in national polling. Nigel Farage has seized the moment with calculated precision. His speeches are not fiery outbursts, but carefully crafted declarations of leadership. He positions himself as the voice of ordinary people, aligning Reform UK with the monarchy and the values of tradition, unity and respect. His calm, measured tone stands in sharp contrast to Starmer's fury, making him appear statesmanlike and dependable. Videos of Farage praising the King's wisdom and denouncing Labour's arrogance have gone viral, spreading rapidly across social media platforms. Crowds chant his name at rallies, and donations to Reform UK pour in at levels never seen before. Farage's critics long dismissed him as a provocateur, but now he is being recast as the leader of a national revolution. His movement is no longer a protest party, it is a government in waiting, born in the ashes of Labour's implosion. Meanwhile, Buckingham Palace maintains its silence, but its silence speaks volumes. The image of King Charles retreating to Sandringham with advisors has become iconic, symbolising a monarch watching as his Prime Minister self-destructs. Insiders claim that palace officials privately view Starmer's remarks as disrespectful and inappropriate, but they refuse to confirm or deny the reports of meetings with Reform UK. This strategic ambiguity allows the public to believe what it already suspects, that the King has tacitly endorsed the movement. Perception has become reality, and in politics, reality is what the people believe. For Starmer, this perception is fatal. He is cast as a man at war with the crown, the people, and the traditions that bind Britain together. The crisis is deepening into a cultural reckoning. Britain is not simply debating policies or leadership, it is questioning the very values that define the nation. To many, the monarchy is the last remaining anchor of stability in a time of economic hardship and political chaos. For Starmer to attack that institution is to sever himself from the soul of the country. Labour, once seen as the party of the people, is now painted as arrogant, elitist and disconnected from reality. Reform UK, by contrast, is portrayed as the voice of ordinary Britons, defenders of tradition, protectors of national pride and champions of the people's will. The transformation is staggering. In just days, Starmer has gone from Prime Minister to pariah, while Farage has risen from the margins to the centre of power. The atmosphere in Westminster is electric with tension. Rumours swirl of senior Labour MPs preparing to resign, of cabinet ministers plotting escape routes, of political allies quietly reaching out to rivals in anticipation of collapse. The government is no longer governing, it is fighting for survival. Every speech, every interview, every headline is another nail in the coffin of Starmer's authority. And as the flames of crisis spread, one reality becomes clearer by the day. Britain is on the edge of a revolution, and the man who lit the fuse is Keir Starmer himself. The storm between Keir Starmer and King Charles has now escalated into something that Britain has not witnessed in generations. A full-blown confrontation between the elected government and the monarchy. For years, the relationship between prime ministers and monarchs has been one of delicate balance, with mutual respect holding the system together. But Starmer has shattered this fragile equilibrium. His harsh words and open defiance of King Charles have emboldened his supporters, while at the same time outraging millions who see the monarchy as untouchable. This is no longer a private clash hidden behind the walls of Buckingham Palace. It has spilled out into the public square, transforming into a spectacle of power where every word, every action and every move is being scrutinised. The political establishment is rattled and Britain is standing at the edge of a constitutional cliff. The King, long respected for his patience and calm approach, now finds himself painted as a figure under siege. Critics of the monarchy argue that Charles should stay neutral, but the reality is that his symbolic influence carries enormous weight. Starmer knows this, and that is precisely why he has chosen to challenge the King so directly. By framing Charles as an obstacle to his vision of Britain's future, Starmer is attempting to position himself as the people's champion against an outdated institution. This is not simply politics as usual. It is a deliberate gamble designed to shake the foundations of the United Kingdom. The result has been an explosion of division. Pro-monarchy crowds have taken to the streets demanding Starmer resign, while Labour loyalists rally around their leader, insisting that the monarchy must finally step aside. The atmosphere is charged, tense and increasingly volatile. In Parliament, the situation is spiralling into chaos. Conservative MPs are furious, accusing Starmer of dragging Britain into a dangerous constitutional crisis, while even members of his own party whisper fears of going too far. Yet Starmer remains unyielding. He portrays his defiance as courage, insisting that Britain cannot move forward while clinging to centuries-old traditions that, in his view, no longer serve the people. To his critics, it is arrogance dressed as bravery. But what cannot be denied is that his words have lit a fuse under the heart of British politics. For the first time in modern history, the question of whether the monarchy should continue to exist is dominating headlines and shaking households across the nation. The unthinkable is now being openly debated. The press has become a battlefield in itself. Tabloid newspapers unleashed scathing attacks on Starmer, branding him reckless and unfit to lead. Royal commentators warn of irreversible damage to Britain's reputation abroad. Meanwhile, Starmer's allies flood social media with messages portraying him as a leader willing to take on the old guard for the sake of democracy. Hashtags supporting both sides trend across platforms, turning every debate, every interview and every speech into viral moments that deepen the nation's divide. The spectacle is not confined to Westminster. It is alive in living rooms, workplaces, pubs and protests where ordinary people fiercely take sides. The struggle is no longer about policies or party politics. It has become a battle for the soul of Britain itself. Yet behind the fiery speeches and public drama, there is a quiet, simmering danger that few dare to fully articulate. Britain's constitutional framework relies on unwritten rules. Traditions of respect and restraint that hold the balance between Parliament, the courts and the monarchy. By tearing apart this convention, Starmer risks creating a vacuum of uncertainty where nothing is stable and nothing is sacred. Legal experts now warn that the courts could be forced to intervene if the confrontation deepens, dragging the judiciary into a political storm they were never meant to handle. If this happens, the entire system could fracture, leaving the nation adrift in a constitutional crisis with no clear solution. Meanwhile, whispers circulate that the palace itself is preparing for battle. Advisors close to King Charles have begun considering how far the monarch can go without overstepping his own constitutional limits. Some suggest he could issue a rare public address directly challenging Starmer's vision and defending the monarchy's role. Others argue that silence remains the only option, for any step beyond neutrality risks fueling the fire Starmer has already lit. Yet the pressure is mounting. With every passing day, the king appears caught between two impossible choices: remain silent and risk being cast as weak, or strike back and risk plunging the monarchy into political war. The streets of London reflect the tension in Parliament and the palace. Protests grow louder, banners rise higher, and the chants of clashing crowds echo through the capital. One group shouts for the monarchy, another against it, while police struggle to maintain control. It is no longer just about Starmer or Charles, it is about what Britain itself is meant to be. The revolutionary energy that has been unleashed feels unstoppable. Every day brings new confrontations, new declarations, and new fears that the nation is standing on the edge of something irreversible. What began as a war of words has evolved into a struggle for power that may very well rewrite the history of the United Kingdom.